YouTube, and right here on our Facebook page as well. Emily in the studio with us from the Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, and we appreciate you coming down from Traverse City. So thanks for coming a little bit of a ways. It's hopefully not too bad of a drive. And did you come down just to see us, or will you be able to explore the area a little bit? Is Ludington a spot that you visit from time to time?
Yeah, so Ludington is part of my coverage area. Mm-hmm. So with the Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, I am their integrated pest management and public health pest specialist. So I do have statewide coverage, which means that I get to go all over the place, which is really fun and helps us carry out our mission to educate people, the public, about public health pests. And
pests, bugs, all that we're going to be talking about over the next few minutes, because you have an event at West Shore Community College next week that we'll tell listeners about. But here's my question. You mentioned about traveling around the region and around the state for this. When you are traveling to areas, is it a positive thing? Do you know what I mean? Or is it if Emily is showing up, there are issues. For instance, you're coming into Mason County next week. Do we have bug issues in Mason County?
Bug issues are everywhere. Okay. So just because I'm showing up, I want to start by addressing whether this is a positive thing. So anytime I show up anywhere, I like to think it's a positive thing because I love what I do. So I get to go to different places and educate people or help people manage their pest problems. I think it's positive.
That's good. Yeah, absolutely. Emily's here. Everybody run. No. At least the bugs. We want to make sure that we are able to. And I guess my question to you is, are bugs manageable? Like, when we talk about pests, as an example, here at the radio station, about a week or two, we had an ant issue here at the radio station. They were just everywhere, and people kept saying, yeah, it's that time of the year, things are happening, and ants are everywhere. Is there some legitimacy to those kind of conversations?
Yeah, sure. So pests are everywhere. And keep in mind that pests need three things, right? They need food, shelter, and water. Okay. And so when we're talking about pests and why they're living in the spaces that we're living, we can think about those three things and get curious about where are they getting those things? Why are they in our space? Yeah. So part of my role is integrated pest management. I'll break that down for you if I can.
Absolutely.
So integrated means that we're using multiple methods to address pest issues. Okay. So first thing we start with is, what is the pest? A proper identification is important. So in this case, ants. Understanding their biology and behavior. What do ants do? They go out and they forage for food or new homes. And then we think about, okay, now that we know something about that pest, we can consider the methods that we might use to address the issue. So was there a trash that was left out? Did we forget to rinse a pop can? Something like that. We can follow their trails, figure out what they're going after, and eliminate that. And then eventually figure out how they got in, right? And maybe we can address that point of entry too.
Do you find that, and I have tons of questions for you, so I'm going to be all over the place over the next few minutes. But do people tend to understand how to, I guess, and I say the word, eliminate pests? Should we, when we talk about, let's talk about bees, for example, okay? Not necessarily they're a pest, because we need bees to survive, and we've heard that many times. But when it comes to ants, our thought was, okay, we need to kill all these ants. We need to get. Are there certain pests that we do want to eliminate? Is there certain pests that we want to kind of help migrate in other areas outside of our surroundings, in the sense? Does that make sense a little bit?
Absolutely. Okay. And so this question that you're asking me actually comes down to our tolerance level for pests, okay? So in some cases, we may have very low or no tolerance for a particular pest, maybe because it's causing us harm, right? So in the world of public health, we think of vectors, things that can transmit diseases to us or cause Maybe they produce allergens that can cause asthma. So in those situations, we may have low or no tolerance for a pest in a particular setting.
Okay, that makes sense. Absolutely. If you had to rank, and maybe it's different in different parts of the region here in Michigan, but do we have certain pests that we know are going to be maybe closer to the lake shore, or more inland, or more north versus south in the state of Michigan? What does that look like?
Yeah, well, let's put it in the context of bed bugs and ticks, for example, okay? So the content of our upcoming program next week at West Shore Community College, we'll be talking about bed bugs and ticks. And if folks are interested, they can do a quick internet search on, the bed bug cities in the U.S. Usually there's an industry published article that ranks cities and their relative accounts with bed bugs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so there's that, but then the other thing to think about with ticks in particular is,
Nice, I like it.
Oh, I have another one for you. We're seeing an uptick.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, yeah, there's another one.
You're going to do our jokes for the hour.
Right, I know. Well, you can welcome me back anytime.
There you go. Yep.
So anyway, we're seeing increases in tick numbers along the lakeshore counties, the western lakeshore counties, which is part of the reason why I'm here with you talking about specifically ticks and the black-legged tick and those increased numbers. So depending on the kind of organism that we're talking about, they may have specifics related to their habitat and where they can exist and thrive.
And is it because, I guess I don't even know if I can make an assumption on this. Is it, my thoughts are that, we see environment change. I guess would be for the first thing that comes to mind. But is there different patterns or different things that are pushing these bugs in certain areas and fill in the blank? What's your thoughts?
Yeah. So as I'll say more northern areas of the state potentially become warmer, that will open up opportunities for different creatures to be able to live and exist in those more northern climates. Okay,
all right. Ticks are obviously an issue. I was just talking to somebody, I think, last week that talked about, we always, when we talk about ticks, we tend to associate that with Lyme disease, which is can be a very, very bad disease, obviously. When we're here in Mason County or the other counties that we cover, Manistee, Lake, Oceana County, what are we looking for when it comes to particularly ticks in general? Is it, and I know it scared the heck out of me when Hudson, our mascot, our radio dog, he had a couple of ticks. And when you see a tick for the first time, or it scares you because they balloon, right? They're deadly they can be deadly for our animals. They can be deadly for humans too, right?
So let's start first with Lyme disease, and I want to thank you so much for not adding an S at the end of Lyme. A lot of folks call it Lyme's disease, and it's actually Lyme disease.
Correct.
But you're right. So the black-legged tick is one of the vectors of that particular disease. So in conjunction with this influx of populations of that specific species along the lakeshore area, we are seeing increases in the number of cases of Lyme disease that corresponds with that. Okay. So in terms of what to look for, so if you've been bitten by a tick, keep in mind that just because you've been bitten doesn't necessarily mean that you will get Lyme disease. Okay? So not all ticks carry it, but some do. And it depends on the length of time that they're allowed to bite and feed on you, which is what causes their ballooning.
Yep, absolutely. That's scary.
And then, after that tick bite occurs, you should be monitoring yourself for flu-like symptoms. Okay. So fevers, joint swelling, those kinds of things. And in addition to what some people may be familiar with, we often call the bullseye rash.
Okay.
But as it turns out, it doesn't always appear as a bullseye. It could be just any sort of rash. So following a tick bite if you do have a rash, then you should seek help from your doctor.
And when you talk about bite, though, because we always think about the tick attaching to us, or as I saw with Hudson, it burrowed into its skin. The body was sticking up, right, and the head is inside, and we always hear, right, don't break off the head into the skin. Is there relevance to that? Is a bite different than some sort of tick burrowing into our skin?
So when a tick bites you, it's inserting its mouth parts into your skin to be able to feed. Okay. And as it does that, it's releasing some juices, some saliva that can carry pathogens in it. Okay. So when you get a tick bite, it's important to remove that tick as soon as possible, which, I guess is why we should encourage everybody to do tick checks regularly, especially after spending some time outdoors in what we would call tick habitats. So like areas with long grass, areas that have a lot of leaf litter, or brushy areas. If you're a hiker, you like to go outdoors and do that kind of stuff. Stay in the center of trails to help avoid getting a tick on you in the first place, but just make sure that you're doing your tick checks. So in terms of the head and being stuck inside and the removal and all of that. So what you want to do is grab the tick as close to the head as possible and pull straight up or away from your body to be able to pull the mouth parts and everything out. And if the mouth parts get stuck, just if you can't get them out, don't go digging. Okay. Just leave them there. Your body eventually will push that out.
Okay. All right. Is it worth? I hate to say this, but maybe it is. I don't know. If we are bit by tick, is it something where we want to try to do this ourselves, or with a family member to try to get that out, or should we go seek, from a health care provider? I mean, is there times where there's one versus the other?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it sort of depends, right, on the person and their comfort level removing the tick, but also where it's located. So there may be places where you can't reach because you can't see it, to get a good handle on it to remove it. So it's possible that you may have to ask help, whether that be a medical professional or a parent or a really good friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, hey, I need a tick removed here. If you're just joining us, we're talking with Emily, and hopefully I can get your last name correctly. Pochabe?
Pochabe. Very
okay.
Close.
All right. I'm working on that. Emily from the Department of Agriculture and Rural Development here. And your region is our region right here in the listening area. So you're down in our area, in our neck of the woods, and you're educating our listeners this morning, our viewers this morning, but also you have an event at West Shore Community College. And I have a lot more questions for you, but let's get to the details for West Shore Community College, because I would assume that some of the questions that I'm asking you today, you're going to be talking about during this event next week. So I don't want to give all of it away, but there is some curiosity. There is, we want to stay healthy. We haven't even got to the bed bug side of things yet, but for this event coming up June 4th, and time-wise, let's see, for 9:30 to 11:30, right?
Yep. So if you want to join us for breakfast, please show up at 9 o'clock. So we'll have a continental breakfast, from 9 to 9:30. Okay. And if you do want to join for breakfast, just make sure that you reach out to the District 10 Health Department. So their email address for registration is info, that's INFO, at DHD10. .com.
Yep. Okay. And we'll put that link up there. Actually, we have a link to the registration on our Facebook pages there. When you are at these events, like West Shore Community College next week, June 4th is the event, open to the public. People can come out there. You want people to be educated about this. What are some of the questions, and I've asked you some questions this morning about this, but what are some of the questions that you do get that people are concerned about?
Well, with regard to bed bugs specifically, a lot of times folks are concerned about getting diseases from bed bugs. And up to this point, we don't have any cases or incidents where bed bugs are actually transmitting diseases to humans. Okay. So that's something that I always like to address or cover in the presentation. The other thing to think about with bed bugs is that it's really important to educate yourself and your family about what these pests look like so that you can be on alert for them when you are out traveling or visiting folks in other places. So,
and you brought, and you'll bring to your, and it's and our cameras might not pick them up, but these can be pretty tiny. They can be pretty large.
Tiny.
We'll try to do a couple towards the camera.
Can we see that?
There you go. And so that's now that's a tick, right? Or no, that's a bed bug.
This is a bed bug.
Okay,
Yep.
bed bug. Okay.
So as you can see, they're about the size and shape of an apple seed and roughly the color of that as well. But they can be smaller than that when they're in their immature juvenile stages. Mm-hmm. So it's important for people to recognize what that looks like because then you can take the precautions against them. Right?
And bed bugs, is there a contributing factor to bed bugs? Is it, is it your house is dirty? Is it an old mattress? Is it you carried it from one place to the other? Are those all factors when it comes to bed bugs and being around them?
Thank you so much for asking that question. So anyone can get bed bugs, okay? So there's sort of a myth out there that if you have a dirty house, you're going to get bed bugs. And that's not necessarily the case. They can live in clean spaces as well. But I will say that the more clutter that you have in a space, the more hiding places a bed bug will have, which can make it more difficult for somebody to find or detect or treat. So that's something to consider, certainly.
Okay, all right, and then hotels. We always hear about that. Is that especially dirty hotels and stuff, and can have bed bugs. I don't even know if there's. I assume there's some recommendations that you have. If we go into a hotel, are we lifting up mattresses? Are we going through the linen there? What's your thoughts when it comes to that?
Yeah, so this is one of the subjects that we'll cover at the presentation as well. But for folks, especially with the summer months coming up, there might be a lot of folks that are traveling. Mm-hmm. So it's important when you get to a hotel, and it can be any hotel. It doesn't matter, if it's upscale or a lower end hotel. You should be inspecting the room when you get there. So the first thing to keep in mind is don't place your items on the bed or any upholstered furniture. Okay. So keep your luggage on probably the tile floor in the bathroom while you do your inspection. Okay. And then the next step is walk over to the bed because that's where they're most likely to be. Pull up the sheets around the edges of the bed and start looking at the seam lines along the mattress. Keep in mind if there is a mattress protector or cover there, just leave it in place. Don't unzip it and try to open it up. Okay. All right. So just look on the exterior of that fabric.
Because bed bugs aren't necessarily getting through that, right? In most cases, it's going to be under the covers, hanging. I would assume hanging. Can they hang underneath the bed and stuff like that? I guess they could be anywhere in there, right?
Yeah. So the reason why you don't remove the encasement around the mattress is because sometimes they're put there to actually trap the bed bugs.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. But they can also
Total opposite of what I was thinking.
Yeah, they could be in place as a sort of a proactive method also. Okay. So they oftentimes they're white in color. And they help smooth out any tufts or seams that you might have on a mattress, so it can make inspections easier for pest management professionals or the facility staff to be able to detect bed bugs right away.
Yeah.
So
wow. Okay. We talked a few minutes ago. Do you have a few more minutes? Hopefully you do. And I appreciate this. As we were talking prior to going on the air, I said, well, maybe the segment will be this long, but if it's really interesting, might go longer. And it's a very interesting topic because you want to get and keep people educated about this. You want to keep them safe. A couple moments ago, we were talking about Lyme disease when it comes to ticks, but what about bed bugs? Can we get pretty sick from bed bugs as well?
Yeah, great question. So bed bugs, to our knowledge, we have not observed any cases where they've transmitted diseases to humans.
Mentioned,
Yep. But I will say that, there can be other issues with bed bugs. So they do feed on us. They feed on our blood. So in high infestations, people can suffer anemia. Okay. They also impact our mental health, right? So
freaking out.
Who wants to lay in bed thinking about, bed bugs biting them? It can cause fear and anxiety, which is absolutely, an impact to our health. And then finally, for folks that do end up with infestations if they don't take care of them right away, or if they don't know and then the infestation gets out of hand. It can impact our financial health because it can be pretty costly, and difficult to manage a severe infestation.
Absolutely. Emily, we haven't hit on the mosquito side of things. That is another one of those pests that we do have issues with. If we're going fishing or going on a trail hike or in the woods anywhere, we have issues there. And we also find that insects obviously can transmit those diseases, and mosquitoes are one of those that comes to mind. Do we have, but I guess before I even ask that question, when we talk about like malaria, right, in tropical weather conditions, but we're here in West Michigan, can we get those kind of diseases right here?
Yeah, so in Michigan, the diseases that we see just about every year, it's primarily West Nile disease, okay? It's not to say that there are other things couldn't happen, but it would take, an introduction of a particular mosquito species that carries that, disease into our area for that to happen. Okay. So West Nile is our most common one, but we do also see things like Jamestown Canyon virus and Eastern equine encephalitis, which can be pretty devastating as well.
Okay.
So it's good for folks to implement, their mosquito prevention measures. So things like, avoiding or limiting your time outside from dusk to dawn. That's when mosquitoes typically are out and active. We can also wear loose clothing to help prevent their bites. And then using repellents as a tool that many of us are very familiar with. I do want to put a shout out to the Environmental Protection Agency on their website. So that's EPA. They have a tool called Find a Repellent That's Right for You.
Okay.
So you can actually go onto that website and use this online tool where you enter in, what kind of creature you're looking at repelling, how long you're looking to repel them. So, are you going to be outside at a bonfire just for the evening, or are you planning on going on a multi-day backpacking trip and you want some real protection from bugs? And that'll help you get a good product, or at least a good active ingredient that can protect you.
That sounds like a very good tool. Before we wrap up, are there myths when it comes to pests? I mean, I think we hinted on a couple of them during our conversation today, but are there things that generally are just wrong out there that we think this direction, but it's not reality? One thing that you'd mentioned, like the bed bugs, I always thought, okay, bed bugs, maybe you could get sick from them. I mean, but we know with ticks, that can be a very huge issue. Mosquitoes transmitting diseases. But are there other things that we can kind of bust this morning when it comes to myths, if you would?
Yeah, what a fun question. So let's start with bed bugs. We already talked about their lack of disease transmission, at least to our knowledge at this point in time. The other thing with bed bugs, I think that folks, if they get curious about them and you do a quick internet search, there's tons of misinformation on the internet about things that will repel them. Something that I see pretty often are folks using dryer sheets to try and repel bed bugs, and that's ineffective.
Okay.
So I want to mention that. The other thing to keep in mind is that both bed bugs and ticks, they don't fly or jump. Okay. So they don't have wings. They have legs. They crawl around. A lot of times you'll hear someone say, "Oh, well, this tick jumped onto my head because you found it in your hairline." But that's usually not the case. They've found
crawled
their way
all the way
up
to you.
On your leg or something and crawled their way up. So,
okay. All right. This is good information there. And I guess before we wrap up. Are we in a better situation these days? I mean, obviously you wouldn't be doing a seminar there at West Shore Community College and wanting to inform the public if we didn't have some major issues, or was it better 5 years ago in regards to these pests, or is it getting worse? I guess is the question I have.
Yeah, it's a good question. So we've been seeing a resurgence of bed bugs since, I'll say, the 90s, okay? But with people doing more travel, we have tons more opportunities for travel on buses, trains, individual cars, those kinds of things. There's a lot of movement of people going on, right? And so there's opportunities for something like bed bugs to jump around. So they don't jump.
Nope, correct. Yeah, I know. No, it's right.
But for them to hitchhike rides, I'll say that,
yeah,
okay?
Correct. Yep.
The other thing to keep in mind with bed bugs, too, is that a means of their spread that we don't often think about is secondhand items. Okay. So I love to thrift, but for folks who are picking up furniture or, other things, keep in mind that could have bed bugs on it.
Good point. And to eliminate bed bugs, what do we do?
Yeah, to eliminate bed bugs, good question. Yeah. So this is... I don't know if we have enough time to cover the extent of what to do, but I will cover that in the presentation.
Yep, that's right. Okay. Yep.
And the first step of eliminating them, if you do have them, is to begin by isolating your bed and begin a cleanup process. Okay. And then there may be other things involved, like heat treatments that can be done. Just a quick tip.
Yep, absolutely.
If you think that you've come in contact with bed bugs, you can actually put your clothing into a dryer on medium to high heat for 30 minutes, and that will kill all bed bug life stages.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
all
works
right.
for ticks too.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
this is
It's
good.
a hot tip.
Well, I agree, and you're going to cover this and more. I mean, it sounds like because it's a few hours or a couple hours of a seminar, and so we've had 20 minutes or so together today. But when all is said and done, for those that are visiting or that are attending the event at West Shore Community College next Tuesday, and we'll talk about the details. We have the link to register on our Facebook pages and our YouTube channel as well. But what is the goal for you for them to retain after going to your seminar there? What's your goal there?
Yeah, so I hope the people that join us learn some methods. Well, firstly, they're going to learn generally what these pests look like so that they can, know when they find one. Then they will have some tips that they can use to address those issues. Primarily, we're focusing on preventative methods. So I hope that people will feel comfortable being able to implement those methods, and then also ask for help. I'm going to encourage everybody that if you run into a situation that you feel like you can't handle it on your own, then I'll give you some resources for folks that you can reach out to, including, maybe you'll be considering hiring a pest management professional, which those folks are licensed by our department, Michigan Department of Ag and Rural Development, to operate.
Yeah, absolutely, and take care of that. Well, I can't thank you enough. I'm sure there's some questions that we didn't even close to get to, but actually, before I close it down, is there anything else that comes to mind that we didn't talk about that would be good to at least touch on this morning? Is there anything else that comes to mind?
Yeah, so I just want to encourage folks that if you're available, please do come to this session on June 4th at the West Shore Community College. If you happen to be listening and will be in the Grayling area tomorrow, I am also presenting there. So the same time from 9 to 11:30, and that's going to be at the Kirtland Community College.
Yep. Okay.
Yep. So please join us at either one of these sessions. And if you ever have questions in the future about public health pests or how to manage pests using IPM, Integrated Pest Management, don't hesitate to contact Department of Ag. And we'll get you in touch with some resources.
All right. Very, very informative. We'd love to keep the door open and have you come back on in the future. I think there's a reason why you do your job to ensure that, as we mentioned earlier with the ants, that was one pest that we had. But when it comes to ticks, that's something very serious, obviously, and others out there, mosquitoes and even bed bugs. And just, as you mentioned a few minutes ago, just the idea of bed bugs crawling around when you're trying to sleep. You want to make sure that you don't have that, and that's where the understanding comes into place, how to handle it, and obviously the preventativeness. That's a crucial part of it, including we talk about with ticks, making sure that we kind of tuck our pants plants in. We talk about that so that they're not crawling up. But those are always important bits of information. I know you'll go over all that next Tuesday. We'll continue to push the listeners to that. You can register by going to either our Facebook page, WMOM, or Hot Country Hits, our YouTube channel as well. The link is right there, and it's a free seminar, correct?
That's right.
Yeah, so it's well worth attending. So make sure you do that.
And it has breakfast.
Oh, there you go. That's a good thing too. Absolutely, I like that. Well, Emily, first of all, thanks for driving down from Traverse City. I appreciate you doing that.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And second, thanks for being so informative. And like I said, the door's open again, so hopefully we'll get a chance to connect and keep people safe out there. Okay?
Sounds good.
All right. It's just after 10 o'clock here.